The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max Smackdown Review.
Hello and welcome to Wrestling to the Max Smackdown Live Review for October 11, 2016. I'm your host of the Shindig, Sean Garmer, and with me, as always, Mr. Paul Leeser.
Heyo.
And our third host today is Mr. Brandon Biskobing. How you doing?
How's it going?
Of course, if you didn't hear the Raw show, Brandon filled in on that one as well, since I made Paul wait too late and he fell asleep. So. But that's my bad. And at least, hey, he's here doing the SmackDown thing. We will have our regular WWE Part 1 episode after we do this. So, SmackDown, starting off with Mr. Dolph Ziggler after he won the Intercontinental Championship at No Mercy, coming out and, thanking the fans and excited about his victory and knowing that this is where he wants to be. And then, of course, here comes The Miz to spoil the party, as you would expect. Not that, Dolph is ever going to get rid of Miz, apparently. As he makes it pretty much known that he wants his rematch. And I think the best part of this was Miz doing sort of a moratorium on the death of the IC title now that Dolph holds it. That was a great bit by Miz there. Even crying. And the fans let him know that he was crying too. So then this turns into a handicap match with Dolph Ziggler against the two members of the Spirit Squad, Kenny and Mikey. And you knew Ziggler was going to win this, but hey, at least it all kind of goes in together with this story that apparently the Spirit Squad aren't done with Dolph Ziggler either, and at least Slater and Rhino make the save at the end. So what did you think of all the stuff here with Dolph, Miz, the Spirit Squad, everybody else?
Yeah, I mean, I liked it. The only thing about it that doesn't make a ton of sense, especially since they're being used, especially, I mean, I guess you could say they're both title holders, but what does Slater and Rhino have to do with Ziggler? I would think, considering his background, I would think a better option for a tag team to come in and make the save, and then I'm assuming this is going to lead to a 3-on-3 tag team match at some point. The better choice here, in my opinion at least, would have been American Alpha to help Ziggler. I know they're doing their stuff with the Usos right now, but you could put that off for maybe, a couple of weeks. You still have 6 or 7 weeks before Survivor Series, so you've got plenty of time to do this little bit, and then move on with the whole American Alpha versus Usos thing. Other than that, the one thing I'm hoping in terms of this feud overall, now that Ziggler has the title, I'd like Ziggler. I know this kind of is more of a heelish type of thing, but I think the fans would definitely get behind it if he did do it. I want to see Ziggler kind of give Miz a taste of his own medicine now and be like, oh, you want a title shot? Well, you're not going to get it. And pull a Miz type situation where, the bell rings and he goes out, takes the IC title and walks off, and it's like, you don't deserve it kind of thing. it would be a kind of interesting twist, and kind of reverse engineering it, and it would be interesting to see how that would work out.
I had absolutely zero problems with the match or the promo. I thought they were all very good. Ziggler and Miz continue their streak of continually entertaining and being the best feud going on in the WWE. As far as Rhino and Heath Slater coming in, I mean, for me, wrestling logic, baby faces look out for baby faces. That's sort of how it works. You don't necessarily need a tremendously great reason for them to get involved other than, hey, that's unfair, let's go make a difference, because we're the good guys, shucks, So, as far as all that goes, I didn't have a problem with it, especially because without a central title contender, now that the Usos have seemingly been dealt with by Rhino and Heath, you can move on to something else. And I'd be okay with the Spirit Squad sticking around for a little bit longer, especially if they help out a tag division that could use some more teams. So there's that, and then I forgot. Oh, the thing with the feud here with Ziggler and Miz is that Ziggler wants to prove that he's the better man and the better champion, and is the right guy for the IC title. So him sort of walking out on title defenses and not giving them out sort of seems to go against the logic that they've created going into this whole thing, especially with the Miz and Bryan talking stuff.
That's true. I'll agree with you on that, but yes, on that level, I agree with you, where Ziggler would be like, oh, you want another title shot? Okay, yeah, come on. I'm not going to be, a pussy like you are. I'm going to actually give you the title shot. Which, that's what I was expecting here to an extent. But at the same time, it would also be interesting. You could go both ways, and it would still be very interesting. Like you said, this is one of the better feuds in WWE right now, and you can go in so many different ways with it.
Pretty true.
I mean, it's true. I do like the way they went with this, though. It's Miz winning his title match, showing that, he obviously wants his title back. He cares about it. They have done a really great job of making you feel like they care about the title. Yes, it is about Dolph. Yes, it is about Miz. But it's made the title very important. It's made it something that they're fighting over. And this kind of continues that here. And hey, if any, I don't know if the Spirit Squad are going to stick around, but it's not like either one of, it's not like SmackDown can't use another tag team or whatever. So
at this point, considering that they've showed up for 3 straight events, I have a feeling that they're sticking around at least for a little bit. I don't know how long they will stick around for, but I think it'll kind of be like a New Age Outlaws type of situation where they'll stick around for a little bit, get in some tag team matches with some other tag teams, and then maybe just disappear after a while.
You think they're going to stick around, Paul?
I kind of hope they do. Like I said, they're both fine wrestlers. They work, and in the short term, at the very least, to get another title defense under Rhino and Heath's title reign, so that way you can continue to build up these other teams.
Yeah, that would. It always helps to keep building them up, and you don't have to have them wrestling the same guy over and over. When you can just have them kind of go through guys. It shows that, those kind of beat anyone, and when they do get that challenge that actually is an issue for them, then it makes it a bigger deal. So, going on from this, which was one of the bigger stories of the night, the other one was AJ Styles getting his, doing his victory speech, and he's, excited again about still being champion. He says, what he did at No Mercy, well, it was phenomenal. That's his deal. And he goes on, and then Ambrose comes out to sort of get at him because he calls Ambrose a lunatic loser. And eventually AJ announces that he has an opponent for tonight, but he's not part of the main roster. And out comes James Ellsworth, man. this dude is getting more play than any indie guy can remember for a long time. And the crowd eats it up every time, which is what's great about this. It's almost like Blue Pants for SmackDown or something. And it's, I mean, they even go as far as to make the match happen. Daniel Bryan comes out and says, oh, wait, no, it's not going to happen like that. Dean Ambrose is going to be the special referee for this match. And, of course, you knew it was going to happen after that. But I thought this was just so well done. They did this so well. Yeah, I know it's a little bit of Ambrose being funny and not being the serious guy I think that a lot more people like or whatever, but this is the kind of thing you do to heels sometimes, and I love the fact that Ellsworth is just getting all of this attention, and he gets more of it on Talking Smack, getting to show off, or reveal where he's been wrestling at, how long he's been wrestling, 14 years. Just, it's crazy, Paul, how much James Ellsworth is like almost part of the roster, but not part of the roster.
I mean, like you said, this isn't the first time they've had a jobber essentially get over with the crowd. Do you think of Barry Horowitz back in the early '90s? Blue Pants, as you mentioned, probably two best examples, and certainly there have been other companies that had some success with a jobber run, getting a lot of play. And like you said, I didn't have a problem with this either. I thought it was fun. It's always like sometimes the heel has to get his comeuppance, and Dean certainly, was the right guy for this night to do it. And James Ellsworth got the crowd to pop pretty good.
He gets a WWE World Title match next week. That's amazing.
Can you imagine all the indie posters? Former WWE World Title #1 contender James Ellsworth appearing at the show.
God, yeah, like he could double his rate on that.
Yeah, I mean this whole segment. I mean, yeah, some people don't like the kind of funny side of Dean Ambrose, but I mean he pulls it off in a way that that worked. He pulls it off in a way that works very well, and he's still believable as being kind of off his rocker, which is exactly what you're supposed to think with him. And the whole thing, I wish he would have, and Daniel Bryan probably would have loved it even more because it would have kind of been a little bit of a to Raw and their general manager if Dean Ambrose pulled out of his pants a Mick Foley-esque, very sloppy referee uniform instead of stealing the regular referee uniform from the the official ref that was supposed to be doing the match. But it did remind me a lot of Mick Foley and him saying, I'm the best referee you've got back in '99 and all of that. So I would love to see Dean Ambrose do more of this. Not sure how you would do it exactly, but you could certainly figure out ways to get it done. And this whole segment was great. From top to bottom, Styles pulled it off very well. Ellsworth was great. The whole thing was great. The one thing that would have been even funnier that I wish that Ambrose had done, which was the one little thing that I would have liked them to do that they didn't, was I wish Ambrose, after Ellsworth had pinned Styles, if he had ran off and grabbed the world title and gave it to Ellsworth and had him hold it up and whatnot. That would have just put the icing on the cake. But I wasn't able to get on Sunday for the No Mercy review. But quick question for you guys, and I know WWE does not follow logic and follow the rules hardly ever, but AJ Styles submits from both guys. Shouldn't that mean that he was out of the match and it would become a one-on-one match between Cena and Ambrose?
We had to answer this question. No. because you can't have a double pin in a match like that, and there has to be a clear winner. It's not elimination style. So if it was an elimination match, then yeah, he would have been. But it's a triple threat. You can only have one winner. So they just basically restarted the match without having a general manager come out and restart it. So
Okay.
Yeah, and you say that, but they've done that finish before at Breakdown back in the 90s with Steve Austin, Kane, and The Undertaker, where both Kane and Undertaker pinned Austin and were co-champions. So it's however they want to acknowledge it is how it works out, and they chose to go this way.
I mean,
It does keep both guys in the mix for the title, though. That's the main point
That's
that they were
true.
trying to get across.
I don't think
yeah.
a co-champions thing could work right now. That worked back then when you needed to have titles changing constantly. You know, they did it with Go ahead.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. It would have been very different, but it's not the way they wanted to go. So
True. I mean, it's supposedly Cena's going to start his going away thing again. So, it would have been weird for him to be champion and not be there, but I guess no worse than Brock at that point. I'm co-champions with a guy you'll never see on TV for a while, but remember, he's part of the champion. Could you imagine that's his 16th title reign? He's a co-champion.
Would it only be 15 and a half?
Huh.
So he didn't get to 16?
That's true. Would it be 15 and a half? And I think they actually... I don't know how that works, because I think they don't acknowledge the China and Chris Jericho one, if I'm not mistaken.
Hmm.
Right.
Well, I mean... the stupider thing is, did you guys see that they counted the quote-unquote main event, which was really the opener, as a main event to give Cena the record?
Well, they did flat out say that a bunch of times, that the main event was going on first. So, it's not like they pulled the wool over anybody's eyes and had us thinking that Bray and Randy Orton was the main event. Because certainly nobody cared about that. But that being said, we get more of Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton here. They're in the tag match to main event SmackDown. Oh boy, guys. Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper against Randy Orton and Kane. Hey, at least they have continuity. Kane's been dealing with Bray Wyatt for a little bit here, so I appreciate that. I appreciate the backstage segment where Randy Orton... I wish they would have acknowledged that they have history against each other as well, but we can't have it all, I guess. But he did acknowledge that Kane is the only other one that's been through hell, and he wants Randy Orton, or he wants Bray Wyatt to live in his. I thought this was just kind of an angle more than a match, really. Or not the. It was kind of it was a match, but it's like they cut it in half with the commercial. I felt like they did about 5 commercials just so they could stall to get to this match. But yeah, I mean, it was okay. I didn't think that it was anything crazy or whatever, but of course this is how Bray Wyatt and Luke Harper win, right? Tag match.
Well, I mean... Well, first off, with the whole commercial thing, I like how they're doing the picture-in-picture again. But not so much in this match, but in the Styles against Ellsworth match, they cut the commercial for the beginning of that match. And then it seemed like Ambrose and Styles were having a little banter there, but no one could hear it because it was on the commercial, which was kind of stupid. But in terms of this match, it's another situation where they're trying to make, I guess, it's clear that they're trying to make it seem like Wyatt and Harper are strong and powerful, and they can do these magic tricks of, making Kane disappear and Harper's in Kane's spot on the apron and all of that. But it's like I've said before, time and time again, it's just lost its luster because, I mean, yeah, Wyatt got the win this time around, but he needed help again, and, you know, it's just, no one really seems to take it seriously anymore because it's like, okay, you're gonna do this 1 week where you're gonna have them pull this magic trick and make the Wyatt family look strong, but then next week I'm sure they'll lose again. So they really need to give the Wyatts a sustained run of winning and utter dominance in order to get them back to the point where, okay, you can consider them a viable threat and you can consider them at face value based on what they say and do.
This to me felt like the sort of beginning of them trying to commit to Bray has powers. And I'm okay with this, but they have to stick with it, as Brandon was just saying. They have to stick with what they're doing, and most importantly, they do need wins. And Bray needs to start getting some clean wins here and there too. But if you're going to go with the powers thing, which, like I said, I have no problem. You have to stick with it. I think they will. They seem intent on trying to do something with Bray at this point. If the last month or two can be considered anything worth doing, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I mean, hopefully we get more of this to come.
The only problem that I have is that it seems like we say this every couple of months when Bray does something positive, where we're saying, oh, it looks like they may finally be doing something right with Bray Wyatt, and then a couple of weeks later we're right back to square one because he loses in some random match, or he does something that just does not make any sense.
They haven't really done that, though, with them committing on the production side of the powers thing before, which if you're going to invest in this, I would think they're actually going to plan on following through. I would think.
You would hope.
Well, we can hope along for that. We'll have to see if they actually do it. You know, they've teased I don't know how many times.
Yeah. I mean, as I've said before, they're just going to have to do a lot of work. I mean, yeah, the fans are still behind Bray Wyatt in spirit, but, like, everything he says just kind of goes over everyone's head at this point because you can't take him seriously because he hasn't gotten any strong wins and he hasn't looked like what he claims.
Yeah, that's rather true. That's the thing with Wyatt. Now we can keep going in circles with this, but it's all up to them as far as what they want to do with him, if they're really going to push him. I feel like, especially with having them interrupt talking smack at the end and having Luke Harper talk, which I thought he did really well. He really is underrated as a talker. I think he doesn't get enough. He doesn't get enough time to talk, but when he does, he gets to show that off, and I hope that that's more the role. They seem to make it a big deal that this incarnation of the Wyatts is going to be different. They want you to be talking about them, or they're going to make you talk about them if you're not. So you're going to come out and make these statements. I would hope that means we're not having them just be in vain. They're going to go out there and they're going to make it a point to Randy Orton or whoever else they're going to be involved with before we get to the eventual match of Randy Orton again. Whether it's a Survivor Series team thing or it's a separate match, whatever it is, they need to follow through with that or it's going to mean nothing. So the big part here is I was right on two things during the No Mercy review. They are doing Survivor Series Raw versus SmackDown matches with 5 men and 5 men against each other, 5 women and 5 women against each other, and I think they're also doing some kind of tag team thing, if I'm not mistaken, as well. So
Yeah, they said 5 tag teams against 5 tag teams, I think.
So there you go. At least you get 3 matches already set for Survivor Series besides the Goldberg and Brock Lesnar that we know is coming, and whatever they're going to do for the world titles. Do you like these Raw vs. SmackDown matches? They did, at least on Brian's part, they said this is the only time they're going to interact. So hopefully let's hope that's how it stays.
I personally don't have a problem with it. Like you said, we talked about this some on the No Mercy review, and we sort of talked about them doing something like this. It's nice to see them commit to it sort of in this way where each division gets some play. I think that's a really neat idea.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea. This is a very minor issue. But Brian said, your top 5, your best against our best. But if you're still gonna have a Universal Championship match and a World Heavyweight Championship match, then you're gonna lose 4 guys from each. 4 of your top guys for each team, 2 for each team. So you're losing 4 of your top guys. So it's gonna lose a little bit of that luster as a result. They're gonna have to figure out a way to make this match seem like it matters when the resources that you're gonna have, if you are gonna have title matches still as well, you're going to have to figure out a way to make these matches matter if it's just mid-card guys, pretty much.
I don't know if it'll just be mid-card guys. It's certainly easier, I think, for SmackDown side because a lot of their guys, I think, have a lot more play and a lot more matter as far as the fans go. Especially when you look, like, if you just stick to one-on-ones, it looks like they're going to do AJ and Dean at Survivor Series, so you have Cena and Orton automatically on a team.
That's true.
The thing is, with those, it's always been that they, unless you put stakes on it like you did with Ziggler a few years ago where Sting came out, most of those don't really mean anything. It's just there for the novelty of it. That's the way Survivor Series kind of has always been, other than in certain shows like the Deadly Game and all that, whatever. It's just been the novelty of, here's these guys that may never team together again, all 5 of them, or all 4 of them, or all 6 of them, and they're going against all this other big dream team, and you'll get to see them clash. I mean, that's what the Survivor Series thing has always been, and remember, it used to be where the whole show was that. So
yeah, if they went back to that concept, from back when it was originally started, where the whole show is these matches with the exception of the Goldberg-Lesnar match and maybe a few smaller filler matches, then yeah, that would be perfectly fine. I would be perfectly fine with that, them doing that.
I also don't have a problem with that either.
But why is it a difference if they decide to have like world title matches and they also have that in the mid card?
Well, because then you're losing the possibility of seeing, Styles against, people don't like it on a one-on-one basis, but it's like you were saying, it's the novelty of it, especially with the brand split now, where you can say, hey, you have the potential to see the Universal Champion go up against the World Heavyweight Champion. You have the potential of seeing the U.S. Champion go up against the Intercontinental Champion.
Yeah, there's a certain draw in that. I don't think it's a giant draw, but if you're not worrying so much about pay-per-view buys anymore because you have the network now, then what does it matter what you do if you know people are going to watch?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't necessarily need it when you have a big match like Goldberg versus Brock. That's going to sell the show by itself. The fact that they haven't even started really promoting Survivor Series as much as they're promoting Royal Rumble right now shows you that I guess they feel Goldberg and Brock will sell itself at this point. But yeah, we'll have to see if they didn't get all these kind of Survivor Series matches or if they added other things in there. I mean, considering that, especially with the tag teams and the women, they don't have enough to have other matches separate from that. So that's probably the roles we're going to see them in. It's just, will the main event players have their own thing to do? So we'll see when that happens. Speaking of the women, they did have a little segment here with Naomi and Carmella having a match after Carmella beat up Nikki Bella. That should be the new hashtag. Instead of beat up John Cena, beat up Nikki Bella. That's the new one for Carmella exclusively there. And yeah, basically Carmella and Naomi have a match. They gets interrupted with Nikki coming down to distract her because she's pissed, and Carmella loses. You know, the distraction roll up, but it works in this case, I think. And then this sets up Naomi and Alexa for next week because Naomi did beat her at the No Mercy pay-per-view. And I liked Alexa's promo. I liked that she was pissed, and she had a good couple lines in there.
Yeah, I like how SmackDown seems to have more things for the mid-card for the women than just squash matches.
Yeah,
in Raw, you basically just have the title picture and then Bayley and Nia Jax doing squash matches.
We haven't even seen Nia in a couple weeks, really.
Yeah, I think they're more intent on building up everybody here on SmackDown from the looks of it. And it's because they have a smaller roster, but two, it's also because I feel like we talked about this all the time. They had so little going for them after the draft, and it's made them have to really focus on trying to build a lot of these guys back up. In the women's division in particular, when you only had really two solidly built women in Natty and Becky Lynch, and even Natty might be up for discussion on that. But certainly, I think they've done a terrific job of building up everybody here. And if I'm in NXT getting called up to that main roster, I'm really hoping I end up on that blue brand because you're going to get some time.
Yeah, I think it all goes back to, once again, you have the old NXT writer that's the main writer here, so he understands what worked there and what made these stories matter and these characters matter, and it's a thing that hurts NXT right now because you're not getting as much character development as you used to. A lot of the time it's, okay, we got your one main match or your two main matches, and then you just got everybody just battling in squashes. So you kind of get a mixture of like the good from NXT, and you get that in a main roster form, and I really enjoy that every week, getting to see who's going to get featured and who gets a little story. And the Usos and American Alpha have been having their little story going on here for a while. Jimmy Uso gets to roll up Chad Gable, who's still kind of banged up from that injury, so he sort of takes advantage, thanks to a distraction by Jay. I think, this is kind of payback for the Jason Jordan beating Jay really quick. So I don't have a problem with this. They've got to kind of, obviously you're going to have part of the blow off at Survivor Series. I'm sure they'll be on separate teams, and you'll get some of that there. And I'm sure at some point you'll transition the titles to the Usos, or maybe not. Maybe you don't even transition the titles to them at all. But still, I think this makes this feud kind of just go on. You don't always have to have this 10-minute segment for them.
Yeah, I think it's something that you saw last week too from this. They got maybe 5 or 6 minutes of play and they moved on. It's the same here. And honestly, that you could tell a lot of the story in the ring because it's about the Usos doing what they do to keep one step ahead of this newcomer tag team to the main roster who's looking to make a splash, and they haven't quite been able to do that yet because the Usos keep beating them.
Yeah, this is just kind of, they're keeping up with the theme of what the Usos have been doing, and it's working right now, so why not? If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
And we have been trolled again, guys. No Kurt Hawkins.
I'm so sad.
You didn't get to
I don't
face
know.
the facts, man. I wanted to face those facts. Oh.
I don't know if that was a troll or if it was poor
he
booking.
said at No Mercy that he was trolling the trolls.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, I don't know. He says that time waits for Kurt Hawkins, so I guess we'll just keep waiting.
I guess so. I'm just so broken up about this.
You don't want to see him debut and all Chuck Norris style and everything. I mean, I'm waiting.
I'm so sad, Sean. The tears are flowing.
Well, we got to do a rating for this show. So, what'd you think?
Go ahead, Brandon.
I'll give it an 8. It was a solid show. A couple of funny moments and whatnot, but there's definitely work to be done moving forward.
SmackDown is unbelievably on point every week. Everything they do matters, going towards feuds that they have going on across the entire roster, which I greatly appreciate. It makes for a wonderful 2 hours of television. That being said, there's not a lot of great wrestling this week, although there is a lot of great story going on. I'm going to go 7.
I'll go with 6.5 in the middle again. There was nothing really wrong with this show at all. You had some short matches which work for the stories, maybe not for the wrestling per se. You didn't have anything like, oh my gosh, I got to go out of this way to watch it wrestling-wise, but I think as far as segments go, I really would recommend watching the whole Dolph and Miz deal, because that keeps being awesome, and AJ and Ambrose somehow keeps being as good as they are. So, you'd think that was over, but they keep it going and they've made it interesting. So that's my plus for that right now. Well, I think that's going to do it for the SmackDown review for this week. We will be back, of course, next week with more SmackDown. And if I apologize again for not having the regular show when we were supposed to have it, but hey, we're having it right now after we finish this. We'll be talking King of Pro Wrestling, doing the review for that, 2016, and talking about some big news that hit on Monday and continues to be a big deal after some more news that hit on today about that big news. So we'll get to that. Thank you, Brandon, for joining us here again and helping out. Yep. And we'll see you guys later.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.